Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Writers Chat, where craft connects community. And as you can see, I'm here with a bunch of people. My name is Brandy Bro. I'm a co-host. I'm here with Melissa Stroh, also a co-host. Our other co-host, Norma Poor, is not with us today. We are talking about a fun and interesting topic called writing conferences. And one of the reasons we have our community on board with us today is because we are going to just have an open discussion about experiences. If we have questions, we're going to pool our expertise so that everybody can share and learn from one another because writing conferences are just a great thing to do, but they can be overwhelming, they can be expensive, and so sometimes you can wonder if you should do it or not. And so getting collective wisdom is a fantastic thing to do. So that's what we've decided to do today. And so I would say to kick us off, let's share who here has gone to a writing conference. You can, those are on screen, can raise their hand. See everybody and other people that are, yep, we got somebody else. And so are you raising your hand to raise your hand or because you want to
No,
speak?
Zoom, when you raise your hand, Zoom does it automatically.
Yeah, so
Uh-huh.
it does, doesn't it? Lovely Zoom. It's helping us. Yeah, so a lot of people here have gone to a writing conference. Some of us more than others. Sometimes there's a couple of us here. I'm one of them. Can't get to writing conferences very often for various reasons, family situations or whatnot. So there are some options besides in-person ones, but let's rewind a little bit and talk about the types of writing conferences we have, like big ones. Somebody give me an example of a big one.
ACFW.
ACFW. Another
Realm,
example,
Realm Makers is huge right
Realm
now.
Makers has gotten huge. Yep.
Yeah, Blue Ridge.
Um,
Blue Ridge.
Blue
Hmm.
Ridge. We have some mid-sized conferences. Anybody have a good idea for mid-sized conference? Would
It's a good
How about Kentucky Christian Writers Conference? Would they be considered
maybe
mid range?
Florida too. Florida
Yeah, I
Christian
was thinking
Writers.
about those two. Yep. Yep. And then
Scrivenings. I haven't been to Scrivenings, but I think that's a growing conference.
okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I actually hadn't heard of that one. See, you learned
it's
something
a
new.
publishing house, and they put on a conference
Okay.
themselves. Then there's Marlene Bagnall used to have the
Yep.
Greater Philly Conference and the Colorado Christian
Yep.
Writers Conference. They were both, I would say, mid-size, and she's combined them now into Write His Answer, and it's all online.
All online.
Yeah.
That brings us into the other things. Um, there are small conferences as well, and then an offshoot of conferences, writing conferences, are writing retreats, where you may get a little bit of instruction, but you can go and you can spend more time praying and writing and connecting with fellow community members. I've been to a couple writing retreats over the years, as well as some larger conferences and a small conference. Years ago, Melissa and I worked with Christian Writers Group International, which does not exist anymore. And we put on a writing conference that turned out to be small and very niche, but very productive and a lot of great education. So you can attend in person. Thanks to COVID, there's been a large shift in attendance. So not everything has to be in person. Kentucky Christian Writers Conference during COVID, they did an amazing price, super cheap. Their conference went fully online, and it was tons and tons and tons of teaching for a week. And so now what you find instead of online conferences is there's often hybrids. You can attend in person, you can get
Or
an online ticket, or you can, do that kind of thing. So people that are not able to go to conferences in person these days can very often find the online version, get a hybrid and kind of get a inside glimpse of what's happening in person in some cases, like Realm Makers, they will stream their awards banquet, which can be kind of fun to watch with all the costumes that come in. And um, it's
I
just
just
it's just
ordered
a lot of
fabric for my
opportunity.
costume now,
Yeah.
waiting for it to come. No surprise there, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, And then there's also something that has cropped up. fairly recently, I should say, I don't know how long it's been in place, um, but it's becoming more prominent as there are writers or editors. I think they are trying to pad their pocketbook a little bit by producing summits. You'll see summits a lot, and they can be very targeted. Fiction summits or this summit or that summit, and where they bring in a bunch of other writers and editors, experts in the industry to present on whatever the theme of the conference is. And you can pay nothing to attend live or for a little bit of an upcharge. You can, and the upcharge usually isn't horrifically priced. You get extra bonuses and you can get recordings and go back into the recordings. So, summits are another way to learn and to meet people in the industry. I haven't seen summits so much in the Christian realm as I have outside Christian publishing. And I'm really not sure if that will infiltrate into summits. With those, I would say evaluate who's there, evaluate what they're going to teach, and see whether or not it's going to be very beneficial. I would also say look at the credentials of the people that are teaching because um, really it seems like summits can just really pad your own pocketbook if you put one on. And I went to one summit where after 2 days out of five, I started hearing the same teaching over and over again because it was just a little bit limited. So not a bad thing if you're sitting in for free, but watch out for the upcharges on those because you don't always need them. They might not always be all that beneficial. So those are a couple of the things that are out there. Anybody else have any other experiences of other types of conferencey teaching, networking kind of things? I mean, obviously, there's like the 540 writing community, kind of like us. Every
Yeah,
week
like to
they do
publish.
a teaching on Thursday evening. Anybody's welcome to come. It's free of charge. They're now connected to Christian Writers Institute, where you can get more formal training and buy courses, but that's not required. Um, so like us, we tend to give a little bit of a teaching every week. 540 does the same thing. So there are online ways to learn as well, and online ways to connect with others in the industry, especially if they have editors and agents come in. A lot of times it's a little bit of an inroad that goes to why go to a conference? Why do teaching? Why do networking?
Go
Why?
ahead, Sophia.
Give me some answers out here.
Sometimes established authors will do workshops as well. I've been to Stephen James and Toscali. Stephen
Mhm.
James does them in person sometimes. Toscali has done a number of online workshops where you can pay one fee and you have sometimes access to the material later or not. But those are really beneficial too sometimes.
Hmm.
Yeah, that reminds me of some of my experience. And I think it stems off of a lot of the specialty workshops and summits that you see have become more popular. There are specialty, smaller niche conferences, like, for example, the Novel Marketing Conference that's come about that focuses purely on marketing for authors. And so they're kind of becoming a little more laser focused in some of those. And then I've been to a combination. Kind of like a mini conference and a book festival with Literature and Lattes, which is now Novel Lattes. And they do an extended 3 day event, basically, where like the first or 2 day event. Sorry, I might be misspeaking there. It's just an extended event. For one part of it, they do like classes and conference type style, and they'll do like author panels. And so they'll have that time for the authors to network. And then the very last day is a book festival where you get to set up your tables and sell your work to the community where it's established at. Then I see some popularity and things like that starting to rise up too.
So why should we go to conferences?
Well, I will address that. I,
Betty.
I have several things published with several publishers, and I can honestly say that everything that I've ever had published was through a contact at a conference. It might not have been an immediate contact. It might have come, in emails later, but everything has stemmed from making that contact. I think that as a lone writer, it's it's nice to get there and hang out with peers people who like to do the same thing you do, people who care about your writing, and there's encouragement. I think that education is a big thing. When I went to my first ACFW conference, I came with my full manuscript ready to get her published, and I walked in and met an editor and found out I knew nothing. I might have had a
Same.
good story, but when she asked me questions about arcs and inner and outer journeys and whatever. Oh, she was speaking Greek to me. And so I left there disheartened, but then I realized I need to learn. If I want to do this, I need to learn. And that's when I started taking anything I could grab, whether it was an online class or an in-person class or just a YouTube video or whatever. But I really appreciated the mentor at that same conference where I was discouraged. I had a mentor that I had paid extra for, but that mentor encouraged me. And that same mentor was the one that I spoke to about ACFW getting a children's literature chapter. And that same person is now president of ACFW, and her encouragement has just existed all along the way.
Mhm.
And I think that's so important.
You know,
Absolutely.
the conferences are good for updates. Things change all the time in publishing, like they do every place else. You know, because we don't live in a vacuum, and so and learning how to meet with an editor, how to meet with an agent, how to speak to them, um how to receive no thank you graciously. You know, there's and to learn there's lots and lots of reasons why editors and agents say no thank you. That it doesn't mean what you have is not good. It doesn't mean you're not a good writer. Like last summer at Realm Makers, I got to meet with an editor from Random House, and well, how do you do that? You know, without and you go to a conference, and so, but you know, I was able to send one thing that she was interested in, and I haven't heard anything yet. But the other thing I pitched, she said, oh, it was a chapter book, and she said because it just happened to be the Christian Children's senior editor, which is lovely. But she loved it, thought it was a great idea, liked the writing, but she said, we've got 5 chapter books in the pipeline. And I said, no worries. I know how this works. You're the first editor I've ever pitched this to. I'm at the beginning of this journey, you know, but I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't. I've been attending at least one writers conference every year since 1997. 97 was my first conference. And I did the same thing as Betty. I walked out of there going, I don't know anything about writing. But I was okay with that. I was happy to learn, and I wanted to do it right. Because if you're not doing it right, because way back then, you didn't self-publish stuff. That was for losers, right? Because we didn't know what we know now. So yeah, networking and learning for sure, learning. Because and I put in the chat, but I'll say it for the video. Right to Ignite is a for Christian children's authors. We've revamped ourselves just this year, and there's a membership thing and all, but we host, I'm on staff now, we host 2 master classes a year. It used to be in person. COVID came, now it's online. But in both of those classes, there are panels. And so, and this year we have an illustrator, an author, and an agent. The editor never got back to us. But that's another way to get not just some info or some advice. Like the spring one is on adding humor, and Sophia JJ is teaching that. He's JJ Johnson. Registration's open now, but I suggested an illustrator and an author, like the author, how do you add humor? How did she add it to her book? And then the illustrator is um, what inspires her to add the humor to her illustrations type of thing. And then we have an agent. Now she's going to send in a video because she's already at a conference that weekend, but she's going to give for its Lighthouse Literary, and she's going to give what they're looking for and the things. And then people that attend, a lot of times you get a free pass in a way to submit if you've met them at a conference. So there's that. And yeah, networking, encouragement. You're not alone.
And I'm also going to add, I put Mount Zion Ridge Press and the Virginia ACFW in the chat. If you can't afford to go to the big conference, those conferences are
Mhm.
both economic. And right now, the Mount Zion Ridge Press has a early bird thing that goes up on April 1st, I think. But
Okay.
it's,
And they're online, right? Mount Zion
they're
Ridge?
all
Yeah.
on Mount Zion Ridge and the Virginia ACFW are online, and you can keep the recordings for a year or something or 6 months. I think Virginia's is 6 months, and Mount Zion is longer than that. It's a wonderful way to learn when you can't afford to go and see the hotel and be in person.
Right. All of that. Yeah.
I think both of Mount Zion, I know Mount Zion, and I think the Virginia one allow lunchtime chats where you can fellowship with people.
hmm Yeah.
And
Even online, Right to Ignite does that too. And Right to Ignite is $79 for the class, 59 if you're a member.
mhm.
So yeah, and you don't have to travel, which is, I don't mind. I love traveling when I can, but I'm in the same position as Brandy, and so we have family things that sometimes keep us from. But my husband's retired. I get to do it a little bit more because he can stay home and watch Anna. So,
I'd like to add to that some conferences will have scholarships. And so
yes,
take a
yes.
look to see if there are any scholarships that you can apply for. I've gone to a conference on scholarships before.
I have two.
The other thing you can do is one year I applied for a grant with the Vermont Arts Council and was awarded the grant. And with that grant, I attended a conference. So there are other ways to find money to go to
Mhm.
something. So you can look for grants. So
You
if
can go to your
money is a
church.
consideration.
Yeah, you can go to your church. I've been to a couple conferences because the missions board at my church was like, "You're presenting the gospel through story for children. We will," and they sent me a couple places. So
Sophia.
Um, another really one thing I really love about going to conferences is not just what you can, you want to make the context, you want to learn and stuff like that, but you also have an opportunity to encourage the author community. You have a chance to encourage the people who are starting. Um,
mm,
I know I cried on Kelly Goshorn's shoulder at my first conference after I did my first pitch. I got slammed down so quick and so hard. And she just encouraged my heart and helped me to weather that little storm.
yeah,
And I just love the opportunity to talk to people who are in the same place I was a couple of years ago.
yes,
So,
yep,
Yeah, I think that's a valuable thing too. And I'm to the point where going to a conference I've learned so much that it's just kind of a review, but going there and encouraging people and telling them, I made it, you can make it, and encouragement is so much a part of this.
really is.
Mhm.
I'm also going for the first time I'm not sure the size. It's St. David's in Western
St.
Pennsylvania.
David's is nice. I'm hoping to be there next year.
Okay, I will be there this year. And I think when you look at a conference, you need to look at your genre
hmm
because if you're going to ACFW, it is fiction. If
Yes.
you're going to Blue Ridge and Mount Zion, and I think the Virginia, though maybe not as much, there are other genres represented.
Hmm.
If you're
Hmm.
going to Filmmakers, of course, you're looking
Speculative. Yeah.
speculative. So investigate the conference and know, does it have what I want to write there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I would
Yeah.
also
St.
say
David's.
there,
I'll be at my brother's 60th birthday, so I'll be missing St. David's, but next year.
Okay.
Go
now,
ahead, Brandy. Sorry.
oh no, it's okay. Now I have had times where I have already been piled up with education, and I was at a place where I didn't have anything I needed to pitch, and I just needed to hone some of my skills, but I already had education in my hands. So there have been times that I have decided specifically not to, seek out any extra teaching, any extra conferences for a year because I already had stuff. And so that was one of the things that God spoke into my heart was use what you already have in your hands. So if you already have a bunch of teaching and training that you haven't gotten through, and you don't have something that is important to connect with somebody to pitch at, there, this may be a year where you just sit and you learn and you take care of what you already have to get through that to grow you where you already have material. And maybe connect with a group like this periodically or on a weekly basis. It keeps you a little bit in the loop and um, you can just learn a little bit more here and there and pick and choose from the different topics that are presented, like here or the 540 writing community, and just go about it that way. But don't overextend yourself either in trying to get to a writing conference. Don't do it financially. Don't stress your family. If you go to a writing conference, you want to make sure that everything is fitting together. All your family pieces are together. Everybody's supporting you and going. Your finances can go. It's a good time in your writing right now to connect because you have something that may need to go or you need more education that you don't have at your fingertips. So there are reasons to go and there are reasons to stay
Mhm.
home and abstain. And I want to mention, because this is important, fear of missing out. If
Yeah.
you have been to a writing conference, you have been within that community and you love connecting with people, and it's such a joy to just be able to pull out of your regular life for 3 to 5 days and just do something different and really sit with other writers and talk about writing and learn and pray together and do all these other things. There can be the fear of missing out if you can't go, and that's a real thing to wrestle with.
Hmm.
I went one year to a retreat and I probably should have stayed home. The reason I went was because I had committed the year before to go. Um, and pretty much the entire time I was there, I kept asking God, why am I here? And the thing that kept coming back was because you committed yourself last year. And it wasn't, there were, people that I connected with that were good and conversations that were good, but I really didn't need to be there. One of the bigger reasons that I didn't pull out and I didn't, get a refund, um, or seek a refund. I don't even know if I could have gotten one, but I didn't even seek one because I was afraid to not be in the mix and I didn't want to miss out. I didn't want to be left behind out of what they were doing and with that year. That is not enough of a reason to go to a conference. I'll tell you that right now. If that is the only reason you're considering going to fellowship with other people, that you don't have any other reasons to go, do yourself a favor, stay home. You'd be better off staying home and praying over your work and your ministry and what God will have you do than going there and spending the money and being where maybe you shouldn't be just because you don't want to miss out.
David brought up a good thing in the chat. He said he went to a workshop over 10 years ago and later told a story about people who attended habitually, attended but never wrote. So it's the constant, I'll be a student but never actually do anything with it.
Yeah.
And you have to, that's a self-examination thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think? It's like, why am I here? There have been times where I go, I don't always have something to pitch. There's always something to learn. And that's what I pray for ahead of time. Lord, I got all the basics. I've been in this industry for decades. So what do I need? And the 1 year at Railmaker, Steve Lawby taught a continuing workshop on the spiritual life of writers. And it was the best continuing session I ever took. And, and sometimes you don't need the writing things, you need the spiritual things, and networking, because you never know. And God may have you there for somebody else. How many people have, any of us have been at conferences, how many people have I prayed with and talked at and looked at their things, and they would meet with me as a mentor and look over their stuff and to be able to give them encouragement, show them where they might have a challenge type of thing. Here's something you can work on. I get it, because I do the same thing, and so we write alone most of the time, and so it's nice to know we all kind of struggle with the same thing in a lot of ways in the writing process. So there's all kinds of reasons to go to a conference if you've got the money and the time.
And
I would add, oh, go ahead, Betty.
sometimes I just look at the hour and say, there's nothing this hour that interests me.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hotel room with no
Mm-hmm.
family in it. I'm going to get my laptop out and use that hour for progress with what I'm working.
Yes.
I would add too that you should be careful of conferences and information becoming an addiction. Like we talk about it being a habit, but speaking as a fellow addict, there is such a thing as accumulating too much information and having information overload and then
Mm.
not using any of it because you're just
Yeah.
overwhelmed collecting and collecting like a pack rat and never actually putting it to good use. So I think
Yes.
that a self-assessment is so essential. Do I need this now? Or do I need to make use of what I have and be a good steward of
Mhm.
what was given to me in the past?
Yes.
Another thing I'll do sometimes is stay an extra day in that facility
Mhm.
and just unpack what I have learned or what I want to do from what I've learned.
Yeah, that's excellent advice.
If you can, that's a good idea. There's a lot of times there are younger, um, especially women who have toddlers at home, young children at home. I have, my Anna is almost 35, but she's a toddler in her brain, so um I come home and there is no downtime. You go immediately back into her full-time care and all of that. And those of us that have, Brandy knows what that's like. Many of us know that. As I'm older and my husband's retired, I drive most of the time now, and that gives me that extra day where I'm driving. I stay somewhere in the middle, you
Mhm.
know, and have a little bit of decompression time. Because we are, even if we're super experienced at going to conferences, you still need downtime, decompression time to get back into the real world.
I
Your sound isn't coming through, Brandy.
Ah,
There you go.
thank you. I turned my little thingy off because my granddaughter came in the room for a minute. Um, I would like to add that when you go to a conference, whether it's you have a big conference or you are attending something online with all different things, even can be a hazard. What I'm going to share can be a hazard with people that watch a lot of writers chat or go to a lot of 540. There are a lot of different topics. And it can be a temptation to think, oh, I want to try this. Oh, I want to try that. Oh, I want to try this over here. This sounds interesting. And to dilute what you are trying to do with all these different things that you think you want to do. So
Mhm.
I would recommend that if you go and get any teaching anywhere, online, in your home, in person, a small thing, a big thing, before you go, set your sights and figure out, what is my lane? What am I trying to do? What is God leading me to do is probably the better question. And put some parameters on yourself so that you're not tempted to try all these other things and get off track.
Yeah.
because then you may miss out and not do what is God's best for you to do. And
Mhm.
you might not even end up finishing the project that you started because now you're trying to do this over here, or you're trying to write a mystery, or you're deciding maybe you want to start a writing retreat, or there's just so many different things out there. We can be really tempted by all these other things. So I would say remember that when you consider any kind of education, and stay focused. And I would say be prayerful always in your writing, in your education, in your contacts, to let God lead you so that you don't end up astray
Mhm.
and upset or feeling discouraged because you all of a sudden can't figure out why you can't finish what you were trying to finish.
Yeah. Sometimes it's that you're told at conferences you should you
Mhm.
should be, and I tried in the beginning because I didn't know any better, and you try to do all of it of the shoulds. Well, you should be, if you're a real writer, you're going to write every day. Well, okay, you want to come take care of my child, my sick baby, while I'm, and so it's it's that too. It's not that, oh, I'm curious and let me try that. It sounds like fun. It's also the guilt of you should. And
Mm,
gosh, it took me so
yeah.
long, and I'm so thankful to go, you know what? I don't have to do all of that. I am wired the way God wired me. And so my writing process is going to not be the same as everybody else's. It's not going to be the you should all the time. And that's such a free right there.
Yeah, on the similar vein, I know I'm probably going to touch on some sensitive subjects for some people, but where good suggestions become shoulds, like
Yeah.
you should try journalism before you write a full novel. You
Yeah.
should do short stories. You should
Yes.
do magazine articles, all those things. And then the person who's only wired for fiction is suddenly balking because,
Yes.
oh, I don't know how to do these things. And you're saying I can't write the fiction that I know how to write because I have to do this first. Yeah. Now, some of that can be very helpful. I can speak from experience that that was one of the things that held me back too, was a lot of the shoulds that were presented at some of the first conferences I went to as a newbie. And one of the things was write short things like articles and short stories before you ever try to finish your full length novel. And they were, their intent was good in that they were trying to encourage writers not to try to pitch and sell their first novel. Because, yeah, your first work isn't going to be great.
Yeah.
But uh, yeah, be careful about teaching it as a should. Definitely teach it as a thing to consider and try.
Hmm.
Experimenting with
Hmm.
things is always great as a writer because it might help you in your current path to learn how to write a certain way. Writing easing articles, blog posts helped me to become a more concise writer. I
Hmm.
wasn't really enjoying the process of writing for an online lifestyle magazine because I didn't feel qualified, but it did teach me something. So it was a good learning experience all around.
Hmm. Just the encouragement too, about the time I would be like, I'm just going to give up and quit writing because I keep getting rejections or I'm hearing nothing. And next thing you know, I've sold a daily devotion. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it helps you keep going. So I haven't written short things for a while, just because I've been busy. Once you get in your lane, right, in your groove, then you forget about some of the little things, and that's something I think a lot of good ideas. And Secret Places always looking for daily devotions. They're all freelance, right? But that kept me from quitting. And I'd be like, oh, I forgot I submitted that. Boom, there's they accepted it, it's published. I got $15. But it keeps you going
And
sometimes.
sometimes you do something like that just because you don't. I My first short thing like that was not a paid thing. I went to the Southern Christian Writers Conference in Alabama because that was near my folks who were getting older, and it was an excuse to visit them and also get a conference in. And they every year publish, used to be just one short story thing, but they do a nonfiction and a fiction thing every year now, and you don't make any money from it, but you get some writing credits, and it's like, okay, I that was one of the first things that I got published, and it's like, cool, cool. And it also shows that you work with an editor. I think that the little things add up if you're thinking about stuff like that. And again, that came from a conference, a small little conference. It's online and in person, but they've made it a goal to publish these anthologies every year. And so,
I liked what Sally said in the chat. I had to comment on that too. The you never publish your first novel, challenge accepted. I'm like, I published my first novel, but the trick is don't publish the first version of your first
Cool,
novel.
right? Right.
You
one that
revise that thing and you make sure that it's valid to be published. So yes, yes, if the very first version of your very first novel is probably something that's going to be hidden in a filing cabinet in the deepest, darkest corners and recesses of your home.
Well,
Yes, yes,
tell fairness,
yes.
all first drafts should not be published.
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I
you know,
after
there's
many drafts.
we all sometimes we have a practice novel is what I've been taught. I have one because I was picture book writer. I still like to do that, but I wanted to try, something longer. And and I loved it. I still love it, but it's my practice novel. It'll never see the light of day. But I learned a lot from it. And what I learned from it is I'm a speculative writer. I'm wired for that because this particular book was partially in the contemporary world, and then there was a magical, spiritual, not a he was spiritually pulled into the body of the computer, and all the parts came to life and stuff like that. And when I go back and I read when he's outside of the computer, and it's
Whoops.
Oh,
okay.
Oh,
But when he gets into the computer and he's interacting with all these crazy computer parts and things, my writing goes, whoa. And you learn sometimes from the first novel you write, even if it never gets published. So I'm thankful for my little practice novel.
so I'd like to ask everybody, what is one of the biggest things that you learned in attending a writing conference?
Hmm. Oh,
perseverance.
so
That
much.
that one was definitely a first lesson. And my first conference, as a newbie, just like what Betty and Pam said, I came in not knowing what I didn't know and discovered very quickly I know nothing. But I
About the
also just,
craft, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, about, even about the industry, about
yeah.
publishing. You go in with that full manuscript. I'm going to show it to them, this staggering work of genius that they're just going to love, and I'm automatically like, where have you been all my life? I
That's
must
right.
publish your book.
$100,000 advance.
Yes, and then they dump the cold water of reality on your head, and you're like, oh. So yeah, my first conference was equally discouraging and encouraging to keep trying. And I learned that, I had a long way to go, but I could get there if I just kept trying. And so, yeah, if I had let the discouragement rule over me and I didn't keep persevering, I would have stopped in 2003 and never pursued it. And I had a long road to go after that. It took 20 years to
Mhm,
get published.
mhm.
So, and I'm not, there are people who have done it a whole lot faster. I'm not saying I definitely went some wrong routes that I probably, like, if I had avoided those, I wouldn't. But one could also argue that God has us each on our own individual journey, and sometimes your journey may be really long, like mine, and sometimes you might have a shorter one. So I
Mhm.
wouldn't even, that's a comparison game. I wouldn't even get into that as far as how long the journey is. You go where God directs you. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
perseverance is important. It's a trait that every author can benefit from.
And I'd add to that determination.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
One of the secular workshops that I did was a week-long experience at Highlights Foundation, which is now Boyd's Mill, not
Mhm.
Christian at all, but I went through several workshops with them and was told later, and it encouraged me so much. Um, that when the teacher, the main teacher, who is a famous author illustrator, looked at me, he told his helper, who happens to live in the town nearby me here, um, he said, she may not be the best author, she may not be a, a polished writer yet, but she'll be the first one published out of this group that's in here
Wow.
because of her determination.
Mm-hmm, hmm.
And I the friend that lives not too far away, he did not tell me that at the time, but he said to me when after I got a book published, he's like that. And I kind of split myself because when I went in with that grown-up novel and was chop, chop, chop with it, I thought, well, I write for kids every day at school. I'm a teacher. And I said, well, I'll write for kids.
Hmm.
So I went through SCBWI, went through the highlights group and learned a lot about that. And I learned that good writing is good writing, whether you're learning it from a children's workshop or from a grown-up workshop. I went back to that first novel and rewrote it many times based on the things that I learned from writing for kids.
Hmm.
And it was my first novel that was published, but many, many, many revisions later.
Hmm. Hmm.
Absolutely. That's what I did with my first novel. I was like, my novel might not be where it needs to be now, but it's going to grow with me as an author, and I'm going to change
Hmm.
it as I learn so I can make it something that readers would enjoy.
And
Yep.
another thing that if you cannot go to a conference, but you're good at learning, there are some excellent craft books at
Hmm.
every level, at every genre.
Hmm.
Look them up and actually don't just read them, do the exercises at the end of the chapter.
Yep. But
Yeah.
ask people what look because you there's so many to find and you're like, which one? So if you have writing friends, ask them which ones, they have. It's so hard to pull out what you the best thing you learned from a conference. I think maybe one of the best things I've learned is my story's not for everybody. I write for my readers, whoever they may be. My readers are the people who like my voice, who like how I tell a story, who will buy my book and read it. And, that, and because if somebody doesn't like my book, it doesn't mean it's a bad book. It's just not for them. That took a long time. I didn't hear that for, you know, 20 some years.
Yeah.
No.
And I heard at conferences, if you reach one person and change their life, then that book's a success.
Hmm.
Mm.
One thing I think one of the largest things I've taken from conferences is if you choose, you have to choose wisely, but the faculty is for you. They are not against you.
Right.
If they have things if they say things that challenge you, that do not meet with your hopes and expectations, it's because they know you need to hear these things. And the same goes for the people, your peers. We are for each other. We are not, for the most part, the communities I've been in have not been gatekeepers, but encouragers. And that's priceless.
We have Sally in the chat says she learned what not to do.
Which is more important sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So what about something that maybe you wished you had done differently with a conference?
I always wish that I'd be more proactive in networking at conferences. Being an introvert, I tend to hide and be the wallflower in the corner. But I have never regretted any of the times where I stepped out and tried to talk with people and get to know them, get to know their writing and connect with them. So that's definitely one that I wish that I was a little better at, and I try to be better at each conference I go to, is to step out and to talk to people, get out of that comfort zone.
I don't have that problem.
It's why us introverts need our extroverted friends to come with us to conferences. I mean,
Oh.
Mm,
Yeah, it's just energizing to get out of the house and meet other people. As an introvert, I could stay in my house forever, but it's like a breath of spring air, which I felt yesterday. We had sunshine and uh, just breathed that clean new air. It's uh, it's always encouraging. Like I said, I've said that before. It's an encouragement.
Mm. Now, David said
Sally.
in the chat that he learned well, I don't know if he learned at a conference, but he wrote, there is no substitute for doing the writing. And I think that is a
Mhm.
very good lesson to learn at conferences. But then he also says later on, that's not a but, it's an addition. Um, he says the online conferences seem like they would be a good fit for me, but there were too many distractions to stay engaged. So you may be the
Yeah.
kind of person that needs to be more in person than
Mhm.
online. So that's a good consideration.
And
Someone
on
like
hu
dessert.
and on humorous side notes, there are also other benefits to writers' conferences. Like Lisa pointed out, the Montrose one has an excellent dessert table.
Oh, nobody feeds you like Montrose. Oh
And
man.
I will vouch for Novel Marketing and their tea and coffee bar. They had Yukon Gold tea. Excellent.
Well, I have to say, the Renew Writing Conference at one of the venues they held it for a couple of years had a labyrinth you could walk.
Hey.
Yep.
So, unknown benefits, people, to writers' conferences. There are more things there for you to discover.
Yeah,
Yep.
speaking of the food, that's where you really, really connect. You're sitting at a table
Hmm.
with a famous author and a famous agent and people who are just beginning and people who say, "Oh, maybe I'll get connected with you." It's sometimes that you don't connect afterwards, but just sitting there and just listening. I
Hmm.
do a lot of listening at the table. Yeah, okay.
Okay, now smart you. So here's my big tip for the day. If you go to a writing conference, you're sitting at a table, and the person of the table, the agent, author, editor, asks you, what do you write? Keep it short so that everybody at the table can answer the question. I have sat
Yes.
at tables before where one person
Yep.
hogged
The
the
whole time.
entire conversation for the
Hmm.
entire meal. And not only does it make you look not very great to the person that is listening and asked the question, but it leaves no room for them to connect with everybody else, which is something they want to do. They want to be there for all the attendees, not just one special person. So
Right.
keep in mind a little bit of consideration to make sure that everybody gets a chance to connect and talk.
Yes. Table dominator, it's true. And part of that fault lies on the faculty member too. Okay, I'm going to give everybody, 5 minutes. We're going to go around. And if somebody goes over, oh, you're 5 minutes, like we'll get back to you. I want to hear from everybody. There's a way, to do that. Not everybody knows how to though,
Mm.
and so it's that's hard. I've been in the same
It can be tricky.
situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like the conferences where they encourage people during the mealtime to go and sit at a different table than you did or with a different group of people than you did before. I think that's excellent advice.
Which can be hard because I have friends I only see once a year
Yep.
at the conference and I want to see them. But yeah.
We're all going
I
to
know,
dominate this
Sophia.
table. Have them group up. Okay, we're splitting over here, then we're going to come back here. Game plan.
So JJ says in the chat, in-person conferences are encouraging for those of us who spend so much time in our winter holes. It's beautiful to learn that there are a lot of people like me who are a little green, a little timid, and a little too nerded out about loving to patch words together.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I say if you can make it to an in-person conference for the right reasons, and you have the finances or you are able to find a scholarship and secure that or a grant or something, then go. You may be a little intimidated. There might be a lot of new things if you haven't been to one before, but trust God in it. Always follow his lead, whether to go or not, and how to go about it. Um, but they're a great way to learn. And some people would argue, oh, they're essential. Can you get by without a writing conference? You can. You can. Are they helpful? Absolutely. Does anybody else have any thoughts to add as we come near the top of the hour?
Everybody talks about, the difference between introvert, extrovert. You can be an extrovert and be shy. You can be an introvert and be outgoing. It's how do you recharge yourself? How are you best? I'm surrounded by introverts who need their quiet time, who need to, like, as my daughter will lead worship on a Sunday and sleep for like 2 hours. When she gets home, she has to recharge. She can't talk to anybody. That's how she's wired. But she's very outgoing. She's very friendly. She loves to meet people. She loves it. But when her battery is down, it's down. And then as an extrovert, I don't always feel like I want to go out and meet a whole lot of new people, but I do recharge. I get energy and I recharge when I'm with people. Even you guys here, Writers Chat Online, it's totally, yeah, ambivert. There's that too. You need
Ambivert,
need downtime as well.
yep.
So,
And sometimes, like I'm an ambivert. Sometimes I need the external connection to charge, and sometimes I need the drawing away to charge. So
yeah,
I flip.
I've learned that as I've gotten older. I've more, I guess, is almost a balancing thing, so
Plateaued out.
ambivert. Yep.
Well, I think this, go ahead, Brandy. I was just going to say, I think this has been a really great discussion and that definitely we'll want to continue it on in the after party afterwards.
Yeah,
But
I just was going to say, are there any burning questions to ask at the last minute that we can field real quickly since we didn't actually, I asked most of the questions. If not, that's great. And if you think of one after we stop the recording and we go to the after party, that's fine too. We will be in the after party for a little while, which you can be in the after party too if you join us live. You can do that by joining our Facebook members page. At least for the time being, it's through Facebook that we put out our events and you can join. But you look for Writers Chat members, join, and then you can get all of the event notices and join us in person. Who knows? Maybe one day we will have our own website or, email list where there's a different way to join besides having to go to Facebook, which we're kind of looking at. So we'll see how that comes down the pike. In the meantime, we thank you for being here. We thank you, if you have watched the replay, for watching the replay. And of course, all y'all here, if you're not following us yet on YouTube, we do have our own Writers Chat channel, www.youtube.com/@ symbol Writers Chat. That's how you get there. Melissa, I'm going to pass to you to talk about next week.
okay.
Because
next week is St. Patrick's Day. We're going to meet on the holiday, and it is among some of my favorites. Maybe you know why. But I am going to be
A little bit
talking,
Celtic.
yeah, about St. Patrick's writings. That we're going to get to a topic that isn't really addressed: his writing style, and some of the things that he wrote about. So yeah, you'll get to come and get a little history lesson, not
I'm the one
from
who
St.
can
Patrick
speak
himself.
Irish better than anybody here.
Well, I'll probably still botch some things, just saying. But
Way better than if I tried. I mean, come on now. Not even
yeah.
close.
So come and you'll get a little history lesson on St. Patrick's writings and some of the profound truths and relatable things that you can find from an author who wrote over 1,000 years ago.
Yes.
So yeah, join us next
Looking
week.
forward to that. Definitely. So, Melissa, you want to wrap us up?
Yep, I will. It's good having you guys here. Join us next time if you can. And thank you for watching Writers Chat. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.